Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Guy in His Garage. My name's Cam. Today, we're gonna do a little maintenance and give our old John Deere LT 160 a little love. I've had it for a couple years. My parents were running it for a couple years before that. Honestly, I don't know the last time any of the fluids were changed. I know the mower deck definitely hasn't been serviced in probably 2, if not 3 years, because I've had it for at least 2. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna pull the mower deck, get it all cleaned up, get some new blades slapped on in there, check out the hubs, spindles, on the mower deck, make sure that they're all greased up and they don't have any issues. And then we'll do an oil change, air filter, fuel filter, and I believe our kit comes with a spark plug as well, so we'll throw a new spark plug in her. Let's go ahead, get started. All right guys, as I was just saying, first thing I wanna do is I wanna pull this mower deck off, because we got to get to the underside and it's just easier to pull it and flip it over to be able to work on it. So these decks, relatively simple. Push this lever down, bend this dial, drop it all the way down to the ground. So right now what I'm doing, guys, is I'm releasing our belt tensioner, which is just attached to this cable here. You can kind of see our belt right here. As we push that forward, our belt gets tight around that pulley. All right, don't want to lose that. So now our tensioner is off. And there's this little ball right up front. Make sure we pull our belt off, our pulley, and then the back, there's these 2 pull pins. Pull that one out. There's a pull pin right here, pull that one out. And now our mower deck should be free to come off. I'll actually attempt, if I can, get it pulled over to the other side. Okay guys, so we got the mower deck off, got it flipped over. Honestly, looking at our blades, don't get me wrong, they're not in great shape at all. But I was expecting them to be a lot worse. So I'm actually kind of happy to see that. You can also see this deck has had some welding done, some patches put in it. You know, this isn't a new tractor, so it's kind of to be expected. So what I'll do is we'll scrape all this out, and then we'll go ahead, hit it with a wire wheel, clean it all up, probably get some primer on it tonight, and maybe some fresh paint too. But we got to take our blades off before we do anything else. So let's go ahead and pop these off. Okay guys, so the last thing we got to do with this deck before we put some primer on it. Growing up, my father would always have me wipe them down with a little bit of acetone or mineral spirits, whichever one you have. And all this does is help get any grease, a little bit of dirt, or whatever that's left off the metal. Helps make sure that you get a nice, good coat and it sticks to the metal. And in reality, I probably should have gloves on for this, but you know, it's almost 10 o'clock at night, so I'm just trying to get this thing painted tonight so that it's done. Because my parents are coming to pick this up and drop something else off this weekend. I think that rag's had it. All right, so now that's wiped down. We'll give it a couple minutes to dry off. I'll blow it off real quick with the air, and then we'll go ahead and take some primer to it. Okay guys, so while the mower deck dries behind us, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna start the service on our lawnmower. And for that, they have these drain plugs that are kind of weird, but it's right here on the side of the block. Pop this little cap. Typically, it's just a little turn, and then they pull right off. We'll let that drain out, and then while that's draining, we'll go ahead and swap out our air filter. So what's nice, guys, is you can typically find a John Deere dealership not too far from you, and if you have your model number and your deck size, you can usually just go in and tell them you want a service kit, and typically that'll come with your air filter. I'm sitting there spinning it for no reason. That'll come with your air filter, your fuel filter, your oil filter, the oil that you need, and typically a spark plug. So our air filter is a little dirty, not too bad. What I'll typically do is I'll actually leave this on there so we don't get a bunch of stuff down in there. And we'll take the blowgun and blow that out. All we're doing there is getting any of the big chunks out of our way and keeping them from getting down into our carburetor. So we'll pop that off. Throw on our nice, fresh, clean new one. A little rubber piece. And then the foam piece. This just helps get some of the finer stuff out of the air. And this gasket probably should be replaced, but this tractor is going to go mow 1 yard every week or every other week. So it's not getting used a bunch. It'll do what this needs it to do, and it'll be all right. And then we'll go ahead and put our cover back on. Screw that back down on there. Okay, then the other thing you'll see is these John Deeres actually have an oil filter. So we'll move our bucket back here a little bit. And what's nice is John Deere was actually smart, and they built these little plastic trays right here. I'm sure you guys can actually see this. So there's a little plastic tray that sits right underneath our oil filter that's V-shaped into a little funnel so that it'll actually run down and not just all over the side of the block. Or at least that's what it's intended for. And of course, super tight. That's when we cheat and we grab the biggest set of channel locks we have for the smallest oil filter. All right, now that it's loose, well, it's really not draining all that much. And to be completely honest, guys, this oil really doesn't look that bad. I mean, it's a little dirty, but feels pretty good. Doesn't smell terrible. So what I'm going to do is I'll grab a rag and start cleaning that up a little bit. One more and we should be good to go. Now some people are going to say you have to refill your oil filters. In a case like this where your oil filter is relatively upside down, there's no good way to do it. You're just going to end up creating a mess. So for this case, we'll just put our oil filter quote unquote dry. But what we will do is we'll take a little bit of oil and put it on the gasket before we screw it on here. Make sure we wipe down the surface real good, make sure it's clean. So here's our new oil filter. Some of our new oil. Just get a little dab on your finger. And then just run it around on the gasket, like so. And then we'll slap that bad boy back on there. Super important with your oil filters is to ensure that you don't cross thread them. You cross thread one of these, forget about it. You're replacing your oil filter adapter that comes off the motor, which on one of these, by the looks of things, it's not replaceable. You'd have to replace the whole bottom half of the block. Or you can just never get the oil filter back off of there again. Which some people are okay with. They'll just constantly drain the oil out, put new oil in it, but I'm not one of those people. If it's got a filter, I want to be able to change it. All right, we're gonna let that continue to drain, so we'll actually move over to the other side, pull our fuel filter and our spark plug. Okay guys, as you can see, this is our fuel filter here on the motor. Here's our new one. So what I'll typically do is I'll move these clamps. They're just little hose clamps. Typically, these lines will get seized on these plastic filters. So what I tend to do is take my pliers, lightly put them on the hose, and just try to twist it a little bit. Got to be careful because you can tear the hoses up, especially if they're really dry rotted. Now it's to be expected that when you go to pull this out, you're going to get gas. So what I tend to do, I know it's going to leak. I got speedy dry for a reason. If you point everything up, typically you can get away without spilling too much gas. Obviously it's going to spill when I disconnect it on this side. Just like that, our fuel filter's replaced. Put our little clamps back on. Now you should follow the instructions to properly dispose of a fuel filter. Don't just go throwing it in your trash can. Throwing it in your trash can would be irresponsible of you to do, so don't do it. Now the spark plug. So these are a single cylinder engine, which means they only have one spark plug. This is our spark plug wire, which comes from our coil. And if you can, try to remove any debris that's stuck up in here. So our spark plug's in here, so I'll get our spark plug socket and we'll get that pulled out. So you might have heard me say spark plug socket. Yes, there is such a thing as a specialized socket for doing spark plugs. Typically, it's probably hard for you guys to see it, but down in there, there's actually a piece of rubber that goes around the spark plug. And what that does is, one, it helps hold the spark plug into the socket so that if you're putting it down into a motor, you don't just drop it in there or whatever, or drop it in the engine bay. And it also makes it easier to pull them out when they're down in deep, because they go right on, and then the rubber retains it and allows you to actually pull it out. Now obviously the spark plug, you got to make sure you gap it properly. They don't always come pre-gapped. So typically what I'll do is I'll just look it up in the service manual if you have it. Honestly, doesn't look too fouled. There's a little bit of carbon buildup, but nothing crazy. So like I was saying, I'll typically look up the gap. Make sure our new spark plug's gapped to the right size, and we'll throw it in there. Okay, so this is a gapping tool. Literally looks like almost a dollar coin, right? This is your spark plug. That's the gap you gotta measure. So according to my research, we should be at a 0.04. Right now we're sitting at like a 0.025. So you just lightly pry with the coin up. Now we're at like a 0.032, a little bit more, and right on the money, 0.040. You can typically get these at like AutoZone, O'Reilly's, and all the other major parts stores, Napa. And then you just go ahead, put it back in there again. It's another important thing, you make sure that you don't cross thread it. Should screw in nice and easy. Now that's in there. Now I'm realizing it now, guys. What I should have done is I should have started the lawnmower up and let it run for about 10-15 minutes so that the oil heated up so it would flow out a little easier. But I didn't do that, so shame on me. Now that's good to go. So now all we have left to do, guys, is actually put our little plug piece back on, refill it up. Probably gonna throw another coat of primer on tonight. We'll come back tomorrow, throw some fresh paint, throw the new blades on it, grease it up if it's greasable, throw it back on, and then she's ready to rock and roll. We might give her a bath. I don't know. We'll see if we have time. If not, Teresa, give this thing a bath. It deserves it. All right? Give it a bath. All right, guys. Now, the second to last thing, like I was saying, we'll put our new oil in it. Now, I'm not entirely sure if it takes full 2 quarts. I don't think it does, but that's what the kit comes with. So we'll put 1 full quart in it. Give it a second to settle. Put our dipstick in, get a measurement, and see where we're at. Now you're probably going, Cam, what if I don't have a John Deere LT 160? This doesn't apply to me. Yes and no. The majority of these small lawnmowers typically have a very similar motor style or setup to where pretty much everything I'm going over you should be able to find on your lawnmower. Looks like we're just hitting the bottom of this dipstick. So we'll put a little bit more in. So I did look it up, guys, and it does say that it actually takes the full 2 quarts. So go ahead and just finish it off. But it does say that's only when the oil filter is also changed. If you don't change your oil filter, it's not going to take the full 2 quarts. There we go. All right, guys. So we changed our air filter, we changed our fuel filter or oil filter, excuse me, and our oil. So the only thing left to do is to put our mower deck back on, but we got another coat of primer, at least 2 coats of paint, and 2 new blades that need to go on there before we can put it back on. So let's go ahead and get the last coat of primer on it, then we'll call it a night, and we'll be back tomorrow. Alright guys, so the only thing left to do is to go ahead and get some new paint on this. Okay guys, so we got one more thing we got to do before we can put this deck back underneath. Our paint is still pretty tacky, but I got to get this done. So got our brand new blades, and just sit down on there. Now it comes with a set of nuts, but that's probably because I don't think these are the original hubs. I'm pretty sure my father a couple years ago put different hubs in it, which is why there's these plates here welded in the center. So I am quickly though going to take a wire wheel and clean these bolts up. Okay, got our hardware cleaned back up. So now I'll just go ahead, get these started. Bust out the big boy. That bearing sounds absolutely perfect. Nope, that's clearly the wrong size. Alright, so now what we'll do is we'll get this deck flipped over and shoved back underneath the lawnmower and hooked up. So before, guys, this thing did not like a super low idle. I figured a lot of that had to do with the bat was very small. Alright guys, not sure how much of that you caught, but we fired up the old John Deere LT 160 and she sounds really good. Before she didn't want to idle really well at low RPM, but that seems to be gone. I suspect probably putting a new fuel filter and a new spark plug in it really helped that out. The only thing is, one of the spindles makes noise. I put grease in them, still makes noise. But you know what? It's going to mow a single lawn. It doesn't have a lot of play in it. I don't know what's going on with it, but it was cutting grass here just fine before I put new blades, greased it, and did a service to it. So it'll be all right for them to run it for a few years till they can get something better. But LT 160 is now done. So we'll get this out of the shop and we're going to start getting ready for a little something else. hopefully next week we'll be tearing the old Ford 8N here apart, splitting it back in half. Shouldn't say back in half because we haven't had it in half yet, but we're gonna split it in half. Sitting on the workbench to the left of you guys is actually the new ring gear for it. So also got a clutch and a couple new bolts for the actual flywheel itself. So that'll be an interesting one. It's probably gonna be 2 different episodes, one episode tearing it apart, one putting it back together. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to that one. I hope you guys are too. If you guys like this kind of content, hey, hit that like button. It does a lot for the channel. Maybe if you like it a lot, maybe subscribe, hit that notification bell so when I post new videos, you guys get notified right away. But hey, this is Guy in His Garage. My name's Cam. Catch you guys on the next one. Later. What are you guys still doing here? I got things to do. I'll see you later.